Neon signs flickered, holographic billboards went blank. The once vibrant cityscape of Neo-Tokyo, a beacon of technological advancement, was plunged into darkness. The internet, the lifeblood of the modern world, was gone. Just like that. Poof. No warning, no explanation. The citizens of Neo-Tokyo, accustomed to the constant flow of information, were confused. They stared at their devices, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of dead screens. This was not a power outage. This was something far more sinister. Panic set in. The silence was deafening. The hum of servers, the constant ping of notifications, the digital symphony of the 21st century had been silenced. The city that never slept was about to experience a very rude awakening. What had we become? The initial hours were marked by confusion and disbelief. People gathered in the streets, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of bonfires. Rumors spread like wildfire. A cyber attack? A solar flare? Aliens? The financial system ground to a halt. ATMs ran dry. Credit cards became useless pieces of plastic. Banks, their digital vaults sealed shut, were forced to close their doors. The very foundation of the global economy was crumbling. Supermarkets were overrun by panicked shoppers. Shelves were stripped bare. Supply chains, reliant on the internet for everything from inventory management to delivery logistics, collapsed. The just-in-time delivery system we had all relied on had just become a just-in-time disaster. The world was staring into the abyss of chaos, and it was terrifying. The internet was more than just a source of information. It was our connection to the world. It was how we stayed in touch with loved ones, shared our lives, and built communities. With the internet gone, we were utterly and terrifyingly alone. The digital town square, once abuzz with activity, fell silent. Social media, the platform for our hopes, dreams, and cat videos, was no more. The echo chamber of the internet, for all its flaws, had connected us in ways we had never imagined. The absence of reliable information created a vacuum, one that was quickly filled by rumors, conspiracy theories, and outright lies. Fear and paranoia became the order of the day. The internet, for all its flaws, had become our window to the world. Now that window had been shattered. What were we supposed to do? Talk to each other? Unthinkable. The economic impact was swift and brutal. Tech giants, once considered invincible, saw their stock prices plummet. The digital empires built on ones and zeros crumbled overnight. The Nasdaq became the no way that's accurate. Global stock markets crashed. Trillions of dollars in wealth evaporated. The interconnectedness of the global economy, once a source of strength, became its Achilles heel. The dominoes were falling, and there was no way to stop them. Unemployment soared. Businesses, unable to operate in a world without the internet, were forced to close their doors. The service industry, heavily reliant on online platforms, was decimated. The world was facing an economic catastrophe unlike anything it had ever seen. Remember when everyone kept saying, "Learn to code"? Yeah, how's that working out for you now, pal? Broken chains, empty shelves. The breakdown of global supply chains had a devastating impact on everyday life. Supermarkets, once overflowing with food from every corner of the globe, were now struggling to keep their shelves stocked. The just-in-time inventory system, once a marvel of efficiency, had become a recipe for disaster. Fuel shortages brought transportation to a standstill. Cars, trucks, and buses sat idle, their tanks empty. The globalized world, once connected by a vast network of roads, rails, and shipping lanes, had been brought to its knees. The internet had allowed us to ignore the fragility of our existence. We had taken for granted the complex systems that kept us fed, clothed, and entertained. Now we were being forced to confront the consequences of our digital dependence. Remember when we thought running out of avocado toast was a problem? Those were the days. Hello? Can you hear me now? In a world where digital communication has become the norm, the sudden absence of the internet forced us to revisit the past. In the absence of the internet, we were forced to rediscover the lost art of communication. Face-to-face conversations became more meaningful, and handwritten letters, once a rarity, became cherished tokens of connection. Landlines, once relegated to the dustbin of technological history, became lifelines. The tactile feel of the receiver, the sound of the dial tone, all brought a sense of nostalgia and reliability. The familiar ring of a rotary phone was a welcome sound in a world that had gone silent. It was a reminder of simpler times when communication was more deliberate and thoughtful. Remember how to use one? Didn't think so. The younger generation, accustomed to touchscreens and instant messaging, found themselves puzzled by the mechanics of a rotary dial. Radio, the original broadcast medium, experienced a resurgence in popularity. The crackling sound of a radio broadcast became a comforting presence in many homes. People huddled around their transistors, eager for any scrap of information. Families gathered, listening intently to news updates and stories, creating a shared experience that had been lost in the digital age. The airwaves were filled with a cacophony of voices, some official, some not, all vying for our attention. It was a chaotic yet fascinating mix, reflecting the diverse range of human expression. The written word, once relegated to the margins of the digital age, made a comeback. Letters became a way to convey emotions and thoughts in a more personal and tangible manner. Newspapers, once on the verge of extinction, became precious commodities. The rustle of the pages and the smell of ink brought a sense of authenticity and trust. The printed page, once a symbol of the past, was now a window to the present. It provided a tangible connection to the world, something that digital screens could never fully replicate. Assuming you could read, of course. Literacy, often taken for granted, became a crucial skill in navigating this new old world of communication. A new dark age. The disappearance of the internet had a profound impact on education and research. The digital age, which had once promised to democratize knowledge and make information accessible to all, had come to an abrupt end. The world was thrust back into an era where physical books and face-to-face interactions were the primary means of learning and communication. Students, accustomed to having the sum total of human knowledge at their fingertips, were now left to navigate the stacks of libraries. The transition was jarring. No more instant answers from search engines, no more online tutorials or digital textbooks. They had to rely on the physical pages of books, many of which were outdated or incomplete. Remember libraries? They're like the internet, but with more sneezing. The musty smell of old books filled the air, a stark reminder of the past. For many, it was a nostalgic return to simpler times, but for the younger generation, it was a frustrating step backward. Scientists and researchers, reliant on the internet for collaboration and data sharing, found themselves cut off from their peers. The global network of knowledge exchange had been severed. They had to revert to traditional methods of communication such as letters and in-person meetings, which were time-consuming and inefficient. The pace of scientific advancement slowed to a crawl. Research that once took days or weeks now took months or even years. The rapid exchange of ideas and data that had fueled innovation was no longer possible. The scientific community was in a state of disarray, struggling to adapt to the new reality. The internet, for all its flaws, had been a catalyst for innovation and discovery. It had connected minds across the globe, allowing for unprecedented collaboration and the rapid dissemination of information. Without it, the world felt smaller, more isolated. Now, that engine of progress had sputtered to a halt. The tools that had once empowered us were now relics of a bygone era. The frustration was palpable as people struggled to adjust to a world without the internet. Libraries, once thought to be on the verge of obsolescence, became vital repositories of knowledge. They were the new epicenters of learning and research. Librarians, once seen as gatekeepers of dusty tomes, were now the guides to a treasure trove of information. The musty smell of old books, once evocative of a bygone era, was now the scent of survival. People found solace in the familiar, even as they longed for the convenience of the digital age. The tactile experience of turning pages in the quiet of the library became a new kind of comfort, just like the good old days. The flickering candlelight, the rustle of pages, it all felt like a step back in time. But this was no romanticized past. It was a stark reality, except without the indoor plumbing or penicillin. The conveniences of modern life were sorely missed. The absence of the internet was just one of many losses that people had to contend with, or the right to vote if you're a woman. The regression was not just technological but also social. The fight for progress, in all its forms, had to start anew. Out of the ashes. The disappearance of the internet was a global catastrophe, but it was not the end of the world. Humanity, faced with an existential threat, found a way to adapt. We always do. Sometimes. Barter systems emerged as the primary means of exchange. Local markets flourished as people turned to their neighbors for essential goods and services. The globalized economy, once a symbol of progress, was replaced by a patchwork of localized systems. Governments, their power structures shaken to the core, were forced to adapt. New forms of governance emerged, based on cooperation and community rather than competition and control. The internet, for all its flaws, had perpetuated existing power structures. Now those structures were being challenged. We were starting over. And that might not be a bad thing. Imagine a world without the internet. It seems unthinkable, impossible. The internet has become so ingrained in our daily lives that it's hard to picture a day without it. From the moment we wake up to the time we go to bed, we are constantly connected, constantly online. But is it? The internet is a fragile thing, more vulnerable than we care to admit. We often take it for granted, assuming it will always be there, always accessible. Yet the infrastructure that supports it is delicate, susceptible to various threats. A well-placed cyber attack, a catastrophic solar flare, or a tyrannical government could plunge us into darkness in an instant. These are not just hypothetical scenarios, they are real possibilities that could disrupt our digital lives. The internet has transformed our lives in countless ways, but it has also made us complacent. We rely on it for everything: communication, entertainment, work, and even our social interactions. It's hard to imagine functioning without it. We have become overly reliant on technology, so much so that we have forgotten how to function without it. Imagine trying to navigate a city without GPS, or remembering a friend's phone number without your contacts list. These small conveniences have become crutches. We have become slaves to the algorithm, our lives dictated by the whims of tech giants and social media platforms. Our attention is constantly being bought and sold, our data mined for profit. We are no longer the users, we are the product. The time has come to rethink our relationship with technology. We need to ask ourselves, are we using technology, or is technology using us? It's a question that requires deep reflection and honest answers. We need to start thinking about the internet as a tool, a powerful tool, but a tool nonetheless. It should serve us, not the other way around. We need to regain control over our digital lives. We need to start thinking about the consequences of our digital dependence. What happens when the internet goes down? Are we prepared for such a scenario? These are questions we need to address sooner rather than later. We need to start imagining a world without the internet, not because it's inevitable, but because it's possible. By doing so, we can better prepare ourselves for any eventuality, and perhaps even find a healthier balance in our digital lives. So put down your phone, take a moment to disconnect, feel the freedom that comes with it. Step away from the computer, reconnect with the world around you, notice the things you've been missing. Go outside and talk to a human being, engage in a real conversation face to face, rediscover the joy of human interaction. You might be surprised at what you learn. The world is full of stories, experiences, and emotions that no screen can ever replicate, assuming you remember how to interact with another human being. It's time to relearn those skills, to reconnect with the essence of what makes us human.